I asked you, the viewer, on YouTube and Twitter what questions you had about the program. Does Maalik Murphy get a fair shot versus Arch? How does Gary Patterson leaving affect the defense? What can we expect from edge recruiting? And more. That's why Eric Nalin, owner of Inside Texas, is on to answer your questions. IT is the place to get your constant Longhorn updates and ask Eric and company any questions about the team. Subscribe to InsideTexas.com today. Link in the description. You wrote the show, so let's answer your questions. Without further ado, let's get into it. What is up, Eric? And first question is from TXHook'em50 on YouTube, and he asks, will there be a difference, if any, for how the defense will be with the absence of Gary Patterson? And how has Sark's new analyst been performing, and what have they done to help the team?
Yeah, the loss of Gary Patterson, I think, is probably going to resonate more with fans than actually in the program. Although he did make some improvements, and he had another set of eyes, I would say, and did a lot of useful things, namely helping them go to more of a quarters concepts. But Terry Joseph is also a quarters guy, and so we're going to see them run that same thing. Blake Gideon, Pete Kwiatkowski are more cover three, so we will see that at times too, especially if they want to package that with blitzes, bringing the safety inside the box. But they're going to run the same things for the most part. But what we're going to see differently is going to be more from PK and Choate. They try to bring different pressures and using Anthony Hill. But I think that was going to happen whether Patterson stayed or left. So that no real changes there. As for the new analysts, I'm not sure yet. We're going to need to hear more about practices. That way we'll have time to see what changes have actually been made. But I need information from practices before I actually have good information on that. Obviously Chris is not going to try to reinvent the wheel with Flood. They're going to kind of run what they always have. There's a lot of overlapping things there. So it's just going to be another set of eyes. I think he's going to help with some technique things with the younger offensive linemen as well. But haven't heard too much about it. We need practice information.
Okay, cool. And then staying in the coaching hires vein, Damian Creighton 8591 on YouTube wants you to speak about the new assistant defensive end coach hire and Jaquez Smith. What's the value of adding him to the team?
Yeah, well, obviously he's got some experience and credibility, but not just his NFL playing days, but he's also been pretty embedded in the high school recruiting scene through trench warfare. So there's going to be a lot of connections. I need to figure out who all that guy knows. It seems like he knows a lot of people. But I think Texas is just looking for ways to play the angles, have a stronger relationship as possible in the most important recruiting regions, namely Dallas. He's going to add in a whole nother element. Every move they make does have probably two or three benefits, not just one. I think that guy's credibility as a former player is going to help out with the current players, but his relationships in the high school ranks, I think, are going to be even more intriguing.
And now, of course, we got to get to the quarterback questions. Jason Calvin 1 on YouTube pulls no punches, stating Quinn was not good last year. Why are we to think he was going to be better? At times even looking like he just doesn't have it. Bad footwork and not stepping into throws, etc. Even though we have better receivers this year, if he can't get them the ball, it won't matter. So what do you have for those wondering about Quinn's progression in year 2?
Yeah, well, what we learned from spring ball and continuing in this summer is that his mechanics are improved. Now, they're not perfect. He's not going to be a perfect quarterback in his second season. He's going to make some mistakes still, but we're going to see more consistency with his accuracy, I believe. Definitely that includes hitting the deep ball. Like I've talked about before, having the wide receivers in the proper fits is going to make a big difference too, I think. Those deep balls are going to be thrown a lot of times to A.D. Mitchell, who's got better ball skills than Worthy. He's got more size, got, I think, more playmaking ability to make plays for the quarterback. So I think he's going to bail out Quinn a few times too. His consistency is better. Why do you think he should be better? It's because players improve. Players always improve under Steve Sarkisian, especially at quarterback. It would be shocking to me if he didn't show demonstrable improvement this season. I'm bullish on him. Again, he's not going to be perfect. I don't think he's going to be a Heisman contender, but I do think he's going to put up a pretty productive season. He'll show a lot of strides, but like I said, his best football is going to be played in the NFL.
And of course, this wouldn't be the University of Texas without some good old quarterback controversy. 40 Acre Cartel on Twitter asks, where does Maalik start at quarterback in 2024? And does he realistically start over the prodigal son, Arch, or does he start for another program?
Oh, man, Maalik Murphy. I have no idea how that's going to play out. A year ago, I would have said that Arch Manning's going to be the starting quarterback in 2024 with a lot of confidence. Now I'm not nearly as confident. Maalik has shown a lot of improvement in his short time on campus. He's going to continue improving, which is another data point of why I think people should be bullish on Quinn Ewers. Look at the improvements that Maalik has made. They're getting good coaching. But Malik's also extremely coachable. Credit to him. I don't care who starts the quarterback for the University of Texas. I just always hope it's a fair competition and the best man wins. And, you take it from there. Will I predict that Maalik Murphy will be on campus 2024? No, it's hard for me to say that with a lot of confidence because he's going to be ready to start somewhere. He's going to be a good college quarterback. It's just a matter of time whether we know it's going to be at Texas or somewhere else. But may the best man win. They're both great dudes. Hopefully there's no controversy and a clear winner emerges. But I don't know who it's going to be. Honestly, I have no idea.
Only time will tell. And then now let's move into the exciting world of recruiting. Fahim Yusufali 8486 on YouTube asks, with the current landscape of recruiting, how important is on-field success going to be this season in regards to certain recruits and keeping them on board for the long haul, as well as some guys we may not be in it for, but with good results could be swayed?
Yeah, I mean, the season is huge for Steve Sarkisian, not just for, proving that he's a head coach capable of winning a conference, head coach capable of winning 10 games. The first year they had kind of that new car smell. They were able to put together a really good recruiting class late. Last year they had the tailwinds of Arch Manning. This year they don't have that. They've got to win. They are putting together a good class. They've done well building consensus with a number of elite prospects. If you fall inside Texas, I'm bullish on them landing Colin Simmons, Kobe Black, Corey Gibson, a few other guys. That's going to help. You need consensus builders. You need them bought in. But at the end of the day, Stark has to win this year. He's got to win the conference, in my view. But yeah, they're always going to play the long game with recruiting. So if they do win 10 games, win the conference, there are going to be a lot of guys that they look nationally at. Hey, which schools disappoint? There's two sides of that coin. If Texas excels and let's say A&M disappoints again, or OU disappoints again, maybe they'll be able to poach some of those guys. So we'll see. But it's huge. Stark has to win. I can't underestimate how big the season is for him to win. He's got the best roster. The schedule is manageable. There's not a lot of talent left the conference, more so than usual. Got drafted in the NFL. So a lot of teams are kind of starting over. Texas by far the most complete team. And so, Sark has to win. No doubt about it.
For sure. And Russell Henkel, 2887 on YouTube, is wondering, with 3 defensive linemen leaving after this year, how much do you think guys like Alex January and Colin Simmons and other potential commits are going to play a significant amount early on?
Oh, man. Yeah. We don't know exactly who all is going to leave. Alfred Collins is likely. We know Tavondre Sweat for sure, of course. But Byron Murphy is the big question mark to me. That's why the addition of Trill Carter was so big. Kind of sets a floor for the program. He's impressing a lot in workouts already. I think they really needed to go big at defensive tackle last cycle. They got Sadir Mitchell, one really good one, but I think they needed more bodies, and that tells you that these guys are going to have a chance for early playing time. Now, Alex January is still a little young. Colin Simmons, he's ready to play college football right now. I mean, he's basically Will Anderson to me. He's definitely going to play a whole lot. Now, it depends on, will he start? I don't know. That kind of depends on how Ethan Burke develops over the next year, I think. But he's going to play a ton. They're looking at DeAndre Robinson. If they get him, that guy's going to play early. I think he's got a lot of Tavondre Sweat to his game. He's got the size and athleticism to survive at an early age. Maalik Blockton, if they get him, I think he can play early, either as a 4-eye or 3-tech. Maybe even as a jack. TJ Lindsey, I think, is physically mature. He'll be able to play relatively early as well. They need help. I'm definitely concerned about the trenches, not necessarily on the offensive line, but on the defensive line in Texas's first year in the SEC. But before then, hopefully they win a lot of games, get some good players, and they'll get them in the program and developing. But I do think they're maybe a year behind on where they need to be stacking talent at defensive tackle.
Yeah, hopefully we keep bringing in those bodies in this cycle. And then Diamond Jim on Twitter is looking ahead, and he asks, after this recruiting cycle, so in 2025, what is the biggest position of need for Texas?
Biggest position need for Texas in 2025. Man, they've done a really good job stacking them. It's probably still going to be edge, I think. Got to kind of start the pipeline going, whereas the pipeline started on the offensive line. They had two classes back to back. You really need to have a couple classes back to back if you really want to start rebuilding or reloading rather than rebuilding. Texas isn't quite there yet at edge, I don't think. Only taking one linebacker in this class. Linebacker will be another need, and that position could theoretically thin a little bit more if a guy like Darian Gillette goes to edge, or if they carve out a different role for Anthony Hill. I think he's going to stay a linebacker, but you never know. Well, a linebacker will be a big need, but quarterback's always a big one, and they got one of the best guys in the country, one of the better quarterback prospects I've seen in the last few cycles, in KJ Lacey. Wide receiver, his teammate, Ryan Williams, you could say him and DeCorian Moore are needs. We know that Sark's offense needs a lead wide receiver, a true stud. Xavier Worthy's got that ability. A.D. Mitchell's got that ability. Jonte Cook's got that ability. DeAndre Moore's got that ability. You have to keep stockpiling those sorts of talents. But yeah, I would say edge again and probably defensive tackle again. You got to keep putting them back to back. And defensive tackle, a lot of times it can require a little bit more development time. And so you got to get those guys ready in the program and developing early so they can get on the field as soon as possible.
Always got to be looking ahead and recruiting. And now let's hit some broader team questions. Lex on Twitter wants to know who is emerging as one of the young leaders on the team so far.
Yeah, well, Quinn is still young. I don't know. We're probably not assuming him. Probably younger than that, I would think, is what the guy's asking about. Maybe freshman. I would say, guys that have that it factor and the leadership ability are Malik Muhammad and Jonte Cook. To me, they're very similar in the way that they're viewed in the locker room. People like being around them. They work very hard. They take the sport extremely seriously. In many ways, they're already professional in their mindset. So those two guys, I've been saying for a while, I think they're going to run that campus and that football program when they're juniors. But first things first, you've got to buy in, and you've got to be able to be led before you can lead. I think that's where they're at right now. But eventually, those guys are going to be leaders. Of course, Arch Manning's going to be a leader in time. We know that. Cedric Baxter's a pretty good leader for running backs. Texas has been spoiled in that regard. Those early enrollees, man, I think that a good number are going to get drafted. I do think that they're the foundation for the return of Texas, and a lot of them have leadership ability. But got to get on the field, got to prove it, kind of mature into that. You don't just a lot of times you don't just do it instantaneously. But Jonte Cook and Malik Muhammad, I think, are going to run that program in the next when they're juniors.
That early enrollee class has some studs. And then Freddie P 3450 on YouTube asks, which position group are you hearing is the most improved?
I mean, the most improved position group is going to be wide receiver. If you got DeAndre Moore and Jonte Cook could theoretically be ready to start this season. They've got elder statesmen in front of them. But that position group is going to be by far the most improved over last year. Last year, it lacked depth. It lacked consistency. Wasn't on the same page too often with Quinn Ewers, and that goes beyond Xavier Worthy. Casey Kane, we saw some mental errors there as well. But wide receiver, I think, is by far the most improved position in the program.
I agree, and this is an important question from Hook'em RLM on Twitter. He asks, we could be losing a lot of players after this next year, DBs, wide receivers, interior D-line. How much of a step back do we take, and how could we get new starters ready for SEC play?
Yeah, the amount of talent on campus that could depart is pretty impressive. I think there's 10 or 11 guys that could theoretically be drafted next season. We're not going to say all of them are going to get drafted. That's not going to happen. But, a lot of those guys are going to get drafted. And it's going to leave the program in a bit of a lurch. Good players are going to emerge this season that we're not even really talking about, like what happened last season. Who would have thought that Anthony Cook would have had such a strong season? And Jalen Ford, we were predicting him to take the next step, but he truly did it. A lot of guys showed improvement, and more guys are going to do that this season. But one good thing is that a lot of the guys that are going to play in 2024 are going to be truly talented. They're going to be young and they're going to be inexperienced, which, they're going to make some mistakes, but they're going to be truly talented. Leona Lafau and Anthony Hill are going to be superstars, I think, at linebacker. But, there's going to be some mental mistakes. Texas is going to lose 3 seniors at linebacker. So they're definitely going to be a step back, I think, but the talent is going to be there. The development is going to be there. The roster cycle just might not be on the right roster cycle like we're seeing with what I expect in the 2023 season. But then again, it'll rebound in 2025 and they'll be off and running. By then, it should be reloading rather than rebuilding. But I do think there's going to be a bit of a rebuild in 2024 given what we expect to lose.
Losing a lot to the NFL is a good problem to have, and that hasn't been the case in a while. And finally, Josh Petty on Twitter asks, what has pleasantly surprised you the most about the current staff that you had concerns about previously?
I think the staff has shown at times maybe to be a tad bit stubborn, at least I thought, but, making changes in season is hard to do. But really, they've proven to be a lot more flexible than maybe I've originally gave them credit for. They went and hired Patterson, switched more to quarters coverage. That worked quite well last season, I think. Sark is really changing up his preferred approach to better suit Quinn Ewers. They're going to run more 11 personnel, going to take some of the decision making out of Quinn's hands. More three wide receiver sets, I think, is a fairly big departure from Sark preferring to have 2 tight end sets out there. So I think they're proving to be pretty adaptable, and you have to be. And the last coaching staff I think was incredibly stubborn at times. The one before that just didn't have it at all. So this staff I think is still growing into what it can become. They're still learning each other, but they're tweaking. They're making tweaks here and there that I think are improving the program incrementally.
Good stuff, man. And that's the end of the questions. But tell the viewers where they can go and pepper you with questions anytime they want.
Yeah, come join InsideTexas.com right now. It's a great time. We've got a lot of recruiting going on. By the time this makes the airwaves, we're going to have a couple more commits. Probably the best community, I think. I'm a little biased to come talk recruiting and talk the team. And I enjoy doing this Q&A with you guys. I'm accessible. We're all accessible on the site. Pretty much every thread on Inside Texas can turn into a Q&A if people ask questions. So if you enjoyed the insight you got here, come to Inside Texas. We write it with a little more clarity than I speak it. I think I'm come across a little bit better as a writer than on video. But come check us out, InsideTexas.com.
And that's a wrap on Eric Nahlin. Head over to Inside Texas and sign up today. Thanks for hanging out. Watch some more of my videos here. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if you want to support quality Texas content. As always, hook 'em.